Hey guys, this is Ashley and Rest, and this is She Wolf Alchemy. And today we're talking about escapism when it's your only coping skill.
Yes. And I think this is often a misunderstood topic. I think sometimes we understand the word escapism and it feels bad, right? And we're like, oh, no. But then when you talk about, like, okay, when your only boundary is to cut people off. And then it's like, well, wait, don't take that from me. That's good. And it can be good at times. The problem is when that is the only coping skill that you have for every single life problem. Every time something gets hard, I am going to run away. I'm going to cut it off. I'm going to escape, or I'm going to isolate. And it's not to say that isolating is not needed at times. It's not to say that cutting things off isn't needed at times. For many cases, those are things you have to do for your own emotional well being. But the problem is sometimes we get too good at it. And it becomes our answer for every single problem that comes about. And then it's no longer healing. It's no longer, you're now creating a whole other issue for yourself. I know how to, and I think we talked about this in the last episode, but it becomes that I know how to heal in isolation. I don't know how to heal in community with others. And so others feel unsafe. And
Mhm.
then this kind of creates this like isolation jail cell for us where, yeah, I feel safe alone, but now I'm lonely. Now I don't have community. Now I have no one to reach out to. Now all I have to depend on is myself. And there's only so many situations or so long that you can do that before that becomes a whole other problem. So let's talk about the different ways that people utilize this whole tool, escapism. Because again, I think when we are talking about escapism, we might think about like, oh, that's running away. But no, we're also talking about when it's I'm using cutoff for everything. But also, escapism can be maladaptive daydreaming.
Mhm.
Reality doesn't feel very good for me. And so I spend all of my time daydreaming in a whole other made up world because that world feels safer for me. And there's a reason why we have the term maladaptive
Mm.
daydreaming because it can become a problem.
There's nothing wrong with daydreaming inherently and like taking a mental break and strolling off somewhere. But when this is what we mean when people talk about being like delulu, like when you're literally, you would just rather be in this other alternative world that you've created. And I think if you find yourself drifting that way a lot, you should be asking yourself why. If you find yourself so like other things like daydreaming, spending too much time like binging,
Mhm.
binge watching things, it could be binge eating, just retreating, all sorts of things like that, where you're just like distracting yourself from real life instead of actually dealing with what's in front of you. I think a good place to start is just kind of assessing like what's happening in my everyday life in my world that I keep trying to hide from. And that's why we're emphasizing that it's maladaptive, because it's like I think about like kids and thinking about this, like people who don't have as much control over their environment, and the only thing they can do is kind of escape and disappear into these other ways and other worlds. But when you have some control over your life and you're still choosing to tap out instead of be a part of what's going on around you, whether that be to actually fix it, to interact, or whatever the case may be, like, yeah, it's definitely worth looking into like what's going on that I don't want to be mentally engaged here.
Yeah. I mean, and I think a big part of it is a lot of times when we were talking about escapism, no matter what type of escapism it is I'm looking for some type of relief from whatever pressure it is that I don't want to face. Really, like Ashley said, kind of looking at why is it that it feels like not facing this thing is the only answer. Actually talk more on the escapism side, like with daydreaming, distractions, and so forth. But I want to talk about isolation because I know for myself, I love isolating. It is a thing I do really, really good by myself. And it is a thing that I have constantly and consistently had to remind myself of like, hey, this you can't always utilize isolation. And I know that at least for me, a lot of this was childhood. A lot of times in my childhood, I had a sibling that was murdered. I had a lot of chaotic things happen in my early life. And so I had parents that were very protective. I had parents that just kind of went on lockdown mode when it came to me, particularly. I just had a lot of situations where I really didn't have a chance to get out and do other things after a certain period of time in my life. And so I became comfortable with being alone because I just was alone a lot of times. I spent a lot of time in my room. It's one of the things that me and my best friend Neek, we were talking about this. We went on vacation recently and we were talking about how both of us were what we call room children. Like we both were children who spent, like if we were at home, we were in our room.
Mm-hmm.
And how both of us have children that are all over the house children. Like my daughter loves being in the living room. She loves being outside. She loves being in the kitchen. She is everywhere but her room, if I'm being 100% honest. And we were both talking about that. And we were both talking about like the reasons why. We're like, my room felt like the only safe place. It just always felt like there was chaos other places. It felt like I was going to get yelled at other places. Everybody was just really tense. But if I went in my room, I could escape from that. And we talked about how like, dang, how that manifests as us as adults. Because I learned very early on that like that is where you find safety. And as an
Mm-hmm.
adult, I found it really, really hard to try other methods because that was my go-to.
Mm-hmm.
The outside world feels safe. Let me go home and be by myself and I'll be cool because I know how to regulate my emotions when I'm alone. I
Mm-hmm.
know how to find safety when I'm alone. I know how to calm down when I'm alone. I didn't really get a chance to practice it a lot with other people. And when you do that, again, at the time, like Ashley said, when you don't have a lot of control of your environment, that's okay. You have to have some type of tool. But as we grow, we start to get more control out of our environment. And kind of like we tell people, me and Ashley both worked with inmates, working with people in the prisons, jail systems, things of that. And one of the things when you're talking about recidivism rates and you're talking about helping them rejoin the outside world and trying to make sure that they don't go back into jail is you have to learn to leave the tools and all the things you had to learn to survive in jail. You got to leave it in jail.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This ain't no, we don't create shanks on the outside world. That's how you end up on a no-fly list. You got to go through that training with them of like, yo, I know this is how the order of things work in here for survival. Okay, you about to be released in two
Mm-hmm.
months. I need you to let go of some of that.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we have to have that conversation with ourselves and unlearn some of the behaviors we learned that kept us safe when we were in a different position, when we were in a position where we did not have control. You now have a lot more control over your life, even if it's just a little bit more. With
Mm-hmm.
that, what are the new tools I can bring with me?
Mm-hmm. So I think while you were saying that, I was thinking about the people who are like, so what's wrong with that? I just like being by myself. I don't see nothing wrong. And there is nothing wrong with being alone, is what we'll say. But I think where it starts to become a problem again is when you're doing this to hide, you're not addressing things that need to be addressed in your life, or when it's causing, for example, we as humans, we are communal people. We're communal beings. As much as someone may love their alone time, and I'm someone who loves my alone time too, I also love my relationships with my friends. I also, it's great to have community and people that you can rely on and all these things. Those types of relationships take work and nurturing. And if you just disappear for months at a time, you got your true blues who'll still be there when, because I have friends that still do that. They just disappear. But by the time they circle back around, they have gone through so much on their own that they really it as that friend, you're like, friend, I could have been there, and it's not necessarily always for the better. It's not like they come out like, I spent 3 months to myself and now I'm healed and I'm back and ready to engage. That's not usually what it's like. It's like, I'm here because it's your birthday, and you know what I'm saying, like they're kind of detached
Yeah.
still from the world. I know myself, I've had those times where I think about this one time when I like took off work for like a whole week and I thought it was going to be so great. And then I realized I was not in a good headspace to have a whole week to just sit with my thoughts. I did not need that time alone. By the end of that week, I was so, like I say, just detached from the real world. Really, I felt really just more down, like a lot more depressed, a lot more. And I was like, oh, I didn't need to do that because now I'm trying to clamber back into society. I have to go back to work. I'm going to see people who are expecting the bubbly me, the me that's like, hey, y'all, good morning. And what? and I'm not her. I
Yeah.
haven't been her all week. I've been in this hole and I just got deeper and deeper in it. And it's so much harder to
Yeah.
pull yourself back into that. So it's like there's nothing wrong with taking time to yourself, but also at the same time, you can dig yourself a lot deeper into depressive states.
Hmm.
You can disconnect yourself significantly from people who could support you or be there for you. And then also, yeah, you have some people who will be there when you come out, but you also have people who don't.
Yeah.
I've also had friends who come out like a year later, like, girl, who I was going through it. And it's like, girl, I ain't talked to you in a year, leave me alone.
Hmm.
And that's a fair feeling to have as well. Of like, the shit you left me hanging for a whole year, you can't just pop back up. It's kind of
Yeah.
not really how this
Relationship's
thing
supposed to be
works.
reciprocal. I can't.
Right. Like, that's not really how this works. So it's things like that, it's also, again, the avoidance, I think is a big part as well.
Yeah.
So there's nothing wrong with spending some time to yourself, but also think of what you're not doing when you're doing that.
And I want to talk about the flip side of that because, like Ashley, I do the opposite. Like, I'll spend a week alone and love it and not want to come back out. Like, I'll spend a week alone and it would be great. It feels so much better. Um, Again, but I had a lot of time being alone. And so,
Mhm.
again, I learned how to heal alone. I learned how to manage my emotions alone. I learned how to like regulate my emotions alone. And so, for me, when I get alone, my thing is the opposite. It's hard for me to reintegrate
Mhm.
because I get so happy alone. I'd be like, these people, they gonna ruin my peace. I'm having so much fun. I know how to make peace with myself. I get so much peace when it's just me. Me and my thoughts know how to create peace so easily. Is when you make me talk to these people and they just be ruining it. And then you want me to communicate and set up boundaries. My boundaries is I don't want to be here. And so I won't. And there is a flip side to that because there is some of us that will be alone. And it's like, nah, girl,
Oh yeah.
I'm exercising, I'm losing weight. Things are going great. Like, the problem was me getting back with folks. It was like,
Mhm.
okay, now how do I do this friendship thing again? How do I do this relationship thing again? And it's hard because you be wanting to cut. One of the hardest things for me, I do a check-in sometimes with my girlfriends about this, is like I'm really good at just cutting folks off and be like, I don't want to deal with this. But it's because again, I know how to find peace with myself. So it feels overwhelming. I could just you don't even have to be here. Why do I have to be overwhelmed by you? I can just remove you from that. But it's like, okay, but I have whole clinical license too. Let's utilize some of those other skills that you know, because not everybody deserves a cutoff. Not everything deserves a cutoff. Some things you do have to learn how to manage and deal with. Look, let me tell you something. Motherhood is probably the biggest thing that made me challenge this and change. Kind of having to go to isolation as a whole thing. Trying to isolate as a mother is detrimental to your health. You can love that baby all you want. Get a village. Get a village. That child will challenge you. Get a
Mhm.
village around you. And so they won't let you have peace and quiet for those first 7 years. Someone told me your eight's the year. I'm gonna get some peace and quiet. I'm not
I don't
counting on it. We'll see. Yeah, they
know.
don't like giving that to you. But yeah, having to challenge myself to learn how to do that because again, I know in the past, I definitely cut off some amazing relationships. I definitely cut off some amazing friendships because it just felt too overwhelming to learn how to deal with people.
Mhm.
And in the end, yeah, I was enjoying my time with isolation, but after a while, you do get lonely. You do kind of wish you had somebody to call. You do kind of wish you had somebody to depend on. You do kind of wish, but you don't because you weren't there to be dependable for nobody else. Because when they needed something, you cut them off.
Mhm.
Because when they came overwhelming, they became too much. You did not do the communication thing. You was like, I don't need no friends. Team
Mhm.
me. And again, it creates these other issues because that not only goes into friendships, it's going to go into your partnerships. It's going to go into your family. And that, like, for me was one of the biggest things. I did not want to teach that to my child. I didn't want her to feel like she only had her and only her, and that's how she had to live. And in
Mhm.
order to do those things, you got to model it. Kids don't care nothing about what you say if they see you doing something different.
I appreciate you bringing up parenting because I definitely have had, as someone who was like raised as an only child, like, yeah, there were people around, but there were always people I did not want to be around. And then, like, living by myself for the majority of my adult life, I definitely, especially when it came time for me to move in with my partner, had whole moments of just like, oh God, I'm gonna go live with another person, and like, then we're gonna have a baby, and then that baby's gonna grow into a person, and like, I'll never be alone again. What do I do? Like, and these are real thoughts that I kept having. And so it's funny. And I actually talked to my partner about this the other day because I was like, um, I have all the mental stuff you go through when you're becoming a
Mhm.
first time mom of like, my life is forever gonna be changed. Oh no, what does that mean? What does it look like? But also, and the way I was telling him, I was like, but it's also kind of like when he came in my life at first, it was a lot of change. But
Mhm.
now we're at the point where I can't imagine
Yeah.
not being with him. I can't imagine a life without. And now I mean, we've only been living together for a couple months now, but I'm comfortable to the point where it's like, yeah, this makes sense. This feels right, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be the same with my baby. Where it's like, oh, this is new, and then at some point, it's like, what would my life be like without my son?
Yeah.
So it's like these changes of things, but definitely have had the moments of like, oh no, I'll never be alone again.
Yeah.
Someone's always going to be around, and someone's always going to need me. And I don't even know what that's like because I am very much used to having a significant amount of space. And even since living with my partner, I still get significant amount of space. It's plenty, but it's like just because we live in the same house, we're not up each other's ass. Like he literally can be in another room
Yeah.
and I come in the room and shut the door for myself and it's fine. So I don't know what I was so worried about. But anywho, but like you were saying, like these are things like it's like learning because yeah, there are gonna be times where other people can't go away, right? Like we have to interact with others. We got to go to work.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God, we got to go to work.
Look, and you can't be one of those people that just keep wanting to fight folks at work. Like you
No,
can't. You got to learn how to have conflict resolution skills. You got to learn communication. You got to learn boundaries. You got to learn the other tools.
you really do. Mm.
And if we got to learn that for our money, why not learn that for our joy? There's
That's
so many things that I feel like when I talk to folks, they're like, yeah, I do that. I do that. Okay, why can't we put that to other places? I get paid to do that. Okay, barely, barely.
you right.
So why not use those same things if it can bring us joy? There's just so many things. Like I feel like people like, yeah, I do this but only because of the money. All right,
Yeah.
let's start doing the things for the joy too.
Mm-hmm. That's very real. It makes me think about that people like reference that James Baldwin and Nikki Giovanni conversation where she was like, "You smile for the white man, why you can't come home and smile for
Mm-hmm.
me?"
Mm-hmm.
Like, which is so real, and I think a
Yeah.
lot of people, and I've said this in other conversations and topics and things where it feels like people do um give their worst to the people closest to them.
Yeah.
And some of it is like, oh, home's a safe space. It's where I don't have to like fake and do these other things. But again, if you're willing to put in the work
Yeah.
to be available or to, you don't cuss out your coworkers, why are you cussing out your family members?
If we can
Like,
talk, have this talk to children, that'd be great. 'Cause mothers are constantly told they behave that way because you're their safe place.
and
That's why they
I
good
know.
and put with everybody else because you safe. Like
And you're like, yeah, that doesn't help
it doesn't
me.
help. It doesn't help me. I understand. They aren't complex thinkers yet. Blah blah blah. But yeah, no, you are 100% correct. You are 100% correct. And I do get like there is a certain amount of also I get space for these folks. So I only have to wear my mask for so long versus I come home. I can't mask all weekend with no break. And I get that.
But then, so this goes into, I guess, being a little bit more solution focused of like, right. Well, like we said before, when you have a little bit more control over your life, right? Like, who you share your home with? When you have outside of like the child you birth, you can pick your partner, you can pick your friends, you can, distance yourself from certain relatives if you don't have to have them. Like I've had family members that, like, I remember at one point, my mom had a particular family member that had started coming around.
Mhm.
And every time my mom came to my house, she brought this person with her. And I was like getting triggered, left, right, center,
Yeah.
things, lots of stuff. And I had to, realize what was happening and go to my mom and be like, Yeah, please no. Please stop bringing this person to my home. Like if it's for like a day, a couple
Yeah.
hours, like I can manage that. I can do that. But I can't do a whole weekend.
Oh yeah.
Just not gonna work. This is my safe space and I just can't I just can't do it.
Yeah.
And that's not completely, that's not someone I'm trying to have a close relationship with, so I don't necessarily feel bad for distancing myself. But again, I can be cordial. It's not keeping me from my family.
Yeah.
Like I can go home and visit my mom and be around them. We can do Thanksgiving. I can still get
Mhm.
the joys of having the family involvement, but I can set some parameters around it.
Yeah.
Spend the night. You got
Yeah.
to go.
No, look, I am a big person. Like, I don't like spending the night over folks' house. For my friends, I do it for y'all because get it. Want me come spend the night? It's fine. 'Cause I love y'all, and that's me using my other coping skills and
Mhm.
tools. Definitely using other skills and tools. But I'm a big person. Like, I don't like spending the night over other people's house because I still like. Again, it's not to say don't ever isolate. I
Mhm.
still need some space for me. I am a person that being with people, I know how to turn on and I can be energetic and I can communicate and blah, blah, blah. But I'm a person that needs a lot of time to recharge afterward. It's very draining. A lot of times when we talk about introvert, extrovert, people see it more as, oh, you're shy. You are very outgoing. But when we're actually really talking about that, that is extroverts, they get energized by communicating and being around other people. Introverts, they get drained from it.
Mhm.
And a lot of times it's very draining. And having that boundary is okay of being like, okay, y'all can come over. I love having, when I used to live in Cincinnati, I used to live a little by the OTR, and my house was like a $5 Uber drive to all the clubs, all the bars,
Mhm.
everything. So my house was the party house. And I'm like, yeah, y'all can come over. Y'all can pregame. Y'all can do all this. Y'all can't spend the night, y'all. Okay, you drunk? Okay, you can sleep on the couch. You're not sleeping in my room with me. I need, I need space. I like to go to sleep and then so long. I don't want
Mhm.
to. I don't want to host at 3 a.m. while we're both drunk, and now I
Mhm.
gotta continue. It's okay to have those boundaries. Again, I think our biggest thing that we want to express here is okay, but what else do we have outside of that?
Mhm. Mhm.
Because I think initially isolation, especially, can be comforting a lot of times. But again, it can also lead to depression. It can also lead to like chronic anxiety as well. The thing about isolation is when you get too much time with yourself in your mind, it can be great. It can be peaceful and so forth. But also, uh, sometimes some of us have really loud inner critics.
Mhm.
And when you have a loud inner critic and there's nobody but you battling that inner critic in your mind, you don't always win that battle. And then what?
Mhm.
Because you're trapped with nothing but you and that inner critic. And it's nice to have a community that comes back and reaffirms to you that you are lovable, that reaffirms to you that no, you are great, that reaffirms to you, okay, we failed at this, dust yourself off, and we're going to try again. And it's going to be
Mhm.
great. And you're going to do better because you have the ability, you have the skills. Community is not just for fun times. It's not just so you have people you can go out with. Community is also about having those people that pour love back into you.
Mhm. Mhm. So, I guess to help even build, like I'm thinking about like the different coping, the other, because we keep saying use your other coping skills. Like, well,
Mhm.
what are those? Um, but having community is one of those like preventative measures, I guess I would say.
Mhm.
Like that's an ongoing thing. We kind of touched a little bit on having boundaries.
Mhm.
I think it's a good way. Like it's okay to have when you know you need space for certain things, help create that space.
Mhm.
It's okay to know that certain types of people don't belong in certain places.
Mhm.
'Cause Lord, what
Learning
other?
how to communicate. I think a lot of times when we go into isolation, it is again, I'm overwhelmed, things don't feel great. And it's not to say you have to jump into communication. Maybe you do need to take a break. Maybe you do need to take a breather. There are some of us who are just not the type of person that immediately engages in conflict. We need a second. That is okay. But going back to using those other tools, communication, okay, I am feeling overwhelmed. It can be as simple as letting them know that, like, you know what, I am feeling overwhelmed right now.
Mhm.
If you can give me 5 minutes, if you could give me 5 feet, you can give me 5 feet, that'd be great. So I'm about to hyperventilate. And if you could just use your communication and not only communication that way, but like a lot of times when we're doing isolation, we're trying to avoid things. And it's a lot of things that we can probably talk through. Not
Mhm.
everything can be talked through, but most things can be talked through.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, because we don't like that conflict, we don't like engaging in
Mhm, mhm.
uncomfortable conversations. It's like, okay, well, I rather isolate, I rather cut off, I rather escape than to deal with this thing. When a lot of times it's things that, okay, let's be uncomfortable for 15 minutes
Yeah.
so we can be happy for the next 10 years.
Yeah. And when you build up your communication skills in that way or be able to have, healthy conflicts, I think you can get better at finding your people in a way.
Hmm.
Because, yeah, there are some people who are like, if you're willing to work with them, they're going to work with you.
Hmm.
They're going to learn, they're going to adapt. You guys are going to be able, like you said, most things really can be talked out and worked through, even if you need a break. Because I know even you and I have moments where it's like, okay, girl,
Hmm.
I'll talk to you next week.
Hmm.
And that's fine. It's not a big deal. But if you do come across where you're like, I'm trying every communication tactic that I got here, okay? And we still not, or it just seems like you just want to antagonize me
Yeah.
no matter what I do or how I say it, that lets you know something.
Yeah.
Because again, I think a part of using using boundaries and isolation and things like that in a more appropriate way as opposed to escape is surveying like what is it about this situation that makes me want to run from it.
Yeah.
you know if you are actively engaged, let's say even at your job, and you're like, I hate this place, I disassociate when I walk through the door,
Hmm.
something is wrong.
Yeah.
Something is wrong. Maybe this is not the environment for you. Maybe that's not the type of work that you need to be doing. Like when you find yourself going into these maladaptive things, because it's we spend, and I'm using work as an example because I used to talk to clients about this all the time too. We spend a lot of time at work. We
Hmm.
spend a bulk of our day at work. If you hate these people that you're around or you hate what you're doing all day,
Yeah.
and also 8 to 9, some people do 8 to 10 hours a day, is a long time to be disassociating.
Yeah.
And it's hard to come out of that. It's not like a switch flips, like you get off work and suddenly you're like, yeah. I mean, for some people, maybe you do that, but it's not healthy, I would
Yeah.
say. Numbing certain parts of yourself and certain feelings and certain things for that long term, it's just not healthy. You would rather be somewhere where you can be a little bit more you, a little bit more comfortable. So
And, and can I just briefly say on that point, also, y'all, there's no such thing as selective numbing when it comes to our emotions.
that
So
exactly.
you up here thinking you numbing the bad feelings and okay, that's it. And I'm just numb these ones. No, you're numbing all of them. So in order for me to not feel uncomfortable, also you're numbing, I will never get to the level of happiness I'm meant to have either. Because I'm
Yeah.
not, I decide I'm a numb in my emotions. There's no such thing as selective emotions. I'm
Yeah.
also numbing the level of joys. I will never get to the highest level of joy I'm meant to either because that numbness spreads across the board.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's it.
Yeah.
No, that's the bottom line. Yeah. You're stopping yourself from even reaching those good feelings as well. You absolutely hit it on the head. So yeah, if you're spending a significant amount of time in that space trying to numb how you feel, whether it's because of your home environment or your work environment, but we'll say an environment that you spend a significant amount of time in, you're really definitely doing yourself some harm and some damage there. And it's time to look at, maybe I don't need to be here. Maybe I don't need to live here with this part. Maybe this person don't need to be in my house. Or maybe I don't need to work this job. I need to find something that is more suited to me. Because I can think about, I worked with a woman, oh God, her job, it was so, and it had her so just to where even when she came home, she couldn't rest. She couldn't enjoy being home because of the dread that I have to go back tomorrow. And I felt that. I've had those jobs where it's like I like when I
Same.
when I,
Same.
when I leave work, I want to feel like, all right, bet I did it. I'm going home to chill out, and we're gonna come back. We're gonna do it again tomorrow.
Mhm.
I don't want to leave feeling like, oh God, I have to come back to this tomorrow.
Mhm.
That's not a good feeling at all. You spend way too. This is day after day after day. But I was working with someone, yeah, who couldn't turn it off, couldn't enjoy that them few hours. You don't get but so much time in the evening.
Mhm.
Couldn't enjoy that. could hardly enjoy the weekend because of the angst of just going back. Like, man, we got to get you out of there. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? There's only but so much. And when you're trying other things, because again, I've been that person. It's like, maybe if I redecorate my office, or maybe if I
Get
get
a standing desk.
get a standing desk, maybe if I
That's
do.
still the funniest thing in the world to me.
First of all, I like the standing desk.
I
I
know,
like
I
that at my
know.
job now.
I feel
But
like I've
no, for
explained
real.
this before, real quick. I just want to throw that in. But y'all, me and Ashley once worked a job and she was just over it. She was just over it. And one day she told me, I'm gonna get a standing desk. And I was like, what? She was like, I feel like if I stand, maybe I'll be happy. And I was like, how does this make sense, Ashley? She's like, no, no, because I'm gonna stand and then the joy is just gonna rise up. And she got her standing dress. And she got
Because
her standing dress.
I feel trapped in buildings. I can't report to the same building every damn day. This shit just but those are things you learn, right? I've learned about myself, like being something about even the type of building, like being in that high rise, and it was
Yeah.
such a journey to get out of it. Like, oh God, help me. I can't do it. I need a little bit more flexibility. But yeah, when you're like, I can do this, and you're trying to come up with all these things, and you're still coming back to that spot of like, it's creeping into my dreams how much I hate this place. You know what I mean?
Where?
It's time to make some changes and like
Yeah.
do something different, and like deal with what's going on. Is it because there's a conversation that you're avoiding? Is it because there's, a change that you're not making, you're stuck? Like, something needs to give.
Yeah. And what Ashley is describing, guys, because you might be like, okay, but you're also talking about leaving. Isn't that escapism? But no, what Ashley is describing is processing. It's
Mhm.
looking at the why. Okay, I want to escape. Why do I want to escape? I feel so much anxiety when I get here. Why do you feel so much anxiety when you get here? Because I feel inadequate around these folks. These folks make me question my degree. They make me just question all my years of experience. I feel unheard. I feel undervalued. I feel underappreciated. I come in here and it makes me question my self-worth every day. That can also be a person.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, now that we know that, then now we can make an appropriate or an informed decision. But if you did that, if you did the escape part without processing, then you just a lot of times end up getting yourself back in the same situation once you leave anyway, because you don't
Mhm.
know the why. You don't know how you got there.
Mhm.
So next
Mhm.
thing you know, all right, now I'm going back with this other person who's just like the person I left. And now they're making me feel, I get really anxious when I'm with them. I am questioning my self-worth. Am I pretty? Do they love me? I mean, they made me that girl. I mean, he proposed, but I'm not sure this man still like me. I'm not even sure this man like me. But we didn't do the work.
Mhm.
We did the escapism, we did the run away, we did the okay, I don't want to deal with this anymore, and then you put yourself back in the same situation. And that is one of the issues we're talking about when escapism is your only coping tool, because you don't get to resolve stuff.
Mhm.
It's a great tool to have in certain situations, but a lot of times when we're talking about isolation and we're talking about like cutting people off, things like that, it should be in a combination with some other things. Did I communicate first? Did I express my needs first? Did I process first? Did I regulate my system before I decide I need to escape? Because also that's another thing. Sometimes we make decisions when we're unregulated that once you give yourself a day or two to calm down, you be like, damn, I need money. I probably should have quit before I had another job.
Mhm.
I did not think that through. No, because we didn't process. We just want to escape.
Another flag that you might need to take some time to process things, I would say, y'all, you're not meant to be irritated all the time. I know some people are just like, that's just me. I just got attitude about everything. That's not normal. To just be kind of irritated and overstimulated all day. Like, that's something to maybe look into and figure out how you can find comfy, safe spaces
Yeah.
or how you can create those things for yourself. It's just you might need to look into that, because again, some people take these things and some people have certain maladaptive behaviors and coping skills, and they take it on as their personality, and they
Mhm.
hold on to it so tight that they can't let it go and change. It's just like, that's just how I am. I go
Mhm.
from 0 to 100. Nope. You might need a medication for that. No, but also
That's actually borderline personality disorder. But okay,
It,
all
nah, for
right.
real. I really had to explain that to some people where I was like, but right here it says you're bipolar. So
Can I
let's
just say though, there's a guy who's a comedian who does a stand up. Exactly what you're saying. He was just like, I was walking around the hood because I was a thug and I was a gangster. And I was just like, because the hood made me, because I'm thuggish, because I'm blah, blah, blah. He's like, fine, actually, come to find out, I'm bipolar. That
Mhm,
actually, he's like, once I got medicated, I was like,
mhm.
hey,
Yeah.
I don't want to shoot people. There's other ways to handle conflict. And I was just like, yeah, there's a lot of us. There's a lot of people.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Being irritable all the time could also be a sign of depression. Like something else is going on.
And I do want to say for my women of color, also, like, let's look into that because the studies have shown depression looks different on us.
Mm-hmm.
A lot
Mm-hmm.
of times we get symptoms of depression because of, like, for example, we might be walking around irritable, we might be walking around like tired, and it's like, I'm not depressed, I'm angry, I'm mad. But yeah, our, especially if you are a person who has never been taught that it was okay to be sad, and so you convert all your sadness to anger because you were taught anger is okay to display.
Mm-hmm.
Like I just said, it could be something like depression, and also understand that sometimes some of these symptoms look very different on us. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's a valid point. 100%. In women and young people, definitely in people of color, it's a big deal. There's so many things that I think about, like kind of like you were talking about with the comedian. I think about people who like, and I know I saw this a lot working in the jails. How many people were trying to commit suicide by cop or by just like,
Mhm.
basically just like wilding in the streets. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
I had no regard for my life.
Hmm.
And so I was just out here reckless.
Hmm.
And at the end of the day, it's depression.
It was depression. Yeah.
um, people who abuse substances, they're self-medicating their anxiety
Mhm.
or some other form of mental health issue that they're just trying to drown out. And so, yeah, a lot of things aren't.
Yeah. Especially with that substance part. I did not do the substance abuse track. I did the mental health track when I was in grad school. However, I had friends that did the substance abuse track. And of course, because I worked in a prison, you have to learn about substances. You have to. Unfortunately, a lot of times it goes hand in hand. But there's a reason why they teach them about dual diagnosis
Mhm.
when you are working with people with substance, because a lot of times you will find out, okay, no, he's just addicted and his life was great and I don't understand, da, 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 da. No, a lot of times it is, I am suffering with this emotion, I'm trying to escape it and I don't know how. Oh wait, there is this thing, this drug, this thing I can inject, this thing I can smoke, this thing I can ingest, and it will take away, I can escape this.
Yeah.
A lot of times it's other things. A lot of times that we're looking at the symptoms and we're getting mad and angry, trying to blame the symptoms when the fact of the matter is a larger thing that's going on.
Mm-hmm. 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 And like even to that regard, we talked about escapism a lot in terms of isolation, but even some people who can't be alone, you constantly have to be out and doing things
Yeah.
and things that where you're intoxicated or you're over ingesting and you're just over stimulating yourself constantly to not deal.
My serial daters,
Whew.
I like, you don't match with me on Bumble and you're a serial monogamous. I am going to ruin the first date. Like,
So you never been
first
alone,
time
eh?
you've been single since you were 18? Fascinating. Oh, you've only been single a week and you're back on the apps. That's interesting. Huh.
Yep.
What's your relationship like with your mother? Like, I'm gonna ruin the date. Like, because we gonna go down this rabbit hole. Because also when you can't be alone,
Yep.
what are you trying to escape from?
Yep.
Because yes, again, everything in moderation. Isolation in moderation, but also community in moderation. Why can't you be alone? Why do you always need to have all 12 of your friends with you?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
interesting.
Why
Why
are
do
you
you always need a partner?
Yeah. Why are you always trying to stimulate yourself? Even like, yeah, people who are like hypersexual behavior is a whole nother thing. And I know that it seems fun and it's like I'm healthy. Have a healthy sexual appetite. I'm embracing these. Look at that. Because it may be. Yep. It may be that you just one of them people. But honestly, a lot of times
Yeah. And y'all
it's
know I support whole life. Like, I'm always like, girl, do your thing.
absolutely.
I love women finding freedom. in their body, especially those who have been repressed and have been told, you gotta wait for marriage. You have sex with him, you gotta marry him. I love when them girlies are like, I'm gonna have sex because I enjoy sex and I feel liberated saying that. But yes, let's check in when you are depressed and your first thing to do is to download Tinder. Let's talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk
Or
about how when
call that man that you know damn hell well because he do A, B, C, and E right. Because you're trying to find something to stimulate yourself to get yourself out of
Mhm,
yeah. You're
mhm.
putting yourself in bad positions to get your
Yeah.
feelings hurt basically because you're trying to get off because you can't sit still for a minute.
Mhm. Or and then again, just trying to escape through again. If I the only way I know how to get pleasure is through another person. Because again, it can be the total opposite. Again, one of the things I struggled with is I struggled with a long time learning how to be at peace with others. I knew really good how to be at peace by myself. But there are some people that know how to be at peace with, as long as other people are there, they have no idea how to be at peace by themselves because they are at war with themselves. You are the distraction from the war that I'm always internally battling.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If I gotta be with people all the time when I'm awake, I gotta take a pill to make sure I go to sleep so I don't dream of anything. I don't have to have this inner monologue conversation. I wake up, I'm taking a pill so I can be distracted from the things that's going on inside my mind. And I'm always keeping myself with busy. I got a whole roster of people. I got a whole rotation of people. Then my friends are always around me and so forth. Again, two sides of the same coin. What are we trying to escape from? Both of them can be ways to escape.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about escapism is that you always get caught. Mental escapism is you're always gonna get caught. You're always gonna get caught. And sometimes getting caught might look like that mental breakdown. Like I'm so alone. I need somebody. I don't even know how to do that. I don't even know how to be with people and that causes that. But it can also be the opposite way of I keep dibbling dabbling with everybody's. And now I realized I was dibbling dabbling with some folks that were horrible for me. I done got myself in some horrible, messed up situations. I done bend over backwards for these folks. I done put these folks on. I done helped these folks, and these people turned around and backstabbed me, all because I could not be by myself. Because I've been noticed and saw some things in them that was a little crooked, that was a little off. But I needed a crew.
It's also those people who, because I hear people, the internet irks me and pop culture irks me, but think about those people who are like, you know, that feeling of you can literally be around people and you still feel alone. Sometimes it is because yeah, the people around you are not the people that you need in your life, but also sometimes it's because you're not truly connecting with those people. You're just there and they're just there.
Yeah.
Y'all just drinking. They're just
Yeah.
drinking buddies. Or again, they come around, y'all have a good time, and then they go click off with the people that they really connect with because you aren't actually connecting with them. You're just being stimulated.
Yeah.
And yeah, like because also a lot of times it's not necessarily taking the best care of yourself, and so it can catch up to you like that.
Mhm.
You know, you go into a place where you realize, gosh, all I've done is watch TV every day. All I've done is binge watch, and I haven't worked on any myself. I haven't met any goals I may have wanted. I haven't connected with others. You can totally allow your health to fail during that time. I haven't had sunlight look at me in a while. I'm thinking about the people who like, you know how well, I don't know if you watch them shows. You know, you watch like 600 Pound Life and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And people go into like super, yeah. But a lot of times that's an escapism because a lot of people do. I know I'm an emotional eater. And if I'm not in a good place, it can really get out of hand. But a lot of people who end up in those situations, because I know people judge differently on those, but if you ever pay attention to what those people are describing, a lot of times it is a lot of loneliness and there's a lot of things that they're doing to isolate themselves. It's like, well, I just went into this space. And a
Yeah.
lot of times it's after something, well, some people, yeah, different people got different issues, but I remember watching something and there was a lot of people who had the story of like, yeah, it was after my divorce or it was after it's after something happens
Yeah.
where
Well,
they go like they went into this and then you look up and it's a year later or it's 2 years later and all I've done was this thing that was super unhealthy for me and now this is the result. Now I have this health condition or now I have this, like you said, like really isolated from whatever it is. It's like I went into this place and I looked up and
yeah.
here I
I mean, and it surrounded me. We have the ACE study. This is a study done by Kaiser. I'm going to mess up the numbers, y'all. So I'm gonna don't think about the numbers. I'm gonna get them wrong. It's been it's been like 8 years since I've been in school. 8 or 9 years since I've been in school.
Mhm.
Yeah, that sounds about right. So don't worry about the numbers. But like the ACE study was a study they did with Kaiser because they had this group of people who they did this program. It was people who were severely overweight, and they had this program. They had this interdisciplinary team working with these people to lose weight, and they had like 40%. Do not pay attention to the numbers, y'all. They're wrong. But we're gonna say a high number of people that dropped out and just stopped coming. And these were people that were losing the weight. Like they were having people who were like 400, 500 pounds getting closer down to like 200. And then they would just like drop off once they start getting closer to a normal weight or a normal BMI. And it was such a high number that they're like, yo, what is happening? And so they had people go out and investigate, like, no, what is happening? What they found is that there was a particular number of things that all these people have in common. And so we have something called the ACE test, where a lot of times clinicians can use with their clients. And if you have a certain amount of things on this ACE, it significantly increases the likelihood that you would get on drugs, the likelihood you will go to jail, things like that. Because basically what they found is that a lot of these people that did drop out were people that had a lot of sexual trauma, was the people that had a lot of abuse in their childhood. They had a lot of substance abuse and things like that in their childhood. And basically what they found is that these people put on weight as a way to protect themselves, to isolate themselves. And basically unconsciously, these people, as they were losing weight and getting closer to a normal BMI, it triggered something in them like, I am not separate anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to be able to, it's not going to be easy for people to isolate me anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And it triggers something in them and they stop and they gain that weight back because that was their protective barrier. Again, escapism comes in many forms.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Y'all Google that. Again, it's been some years. I feel like I didn't put the facts right. I'll throw that out there before somebody write us in our DM. Like, first of all, Miss Clark, Dr. Clark, I don't feel like and study up for that, okay? Like, all right. So
Mm-hmm.
I got the stuff I need to do on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
But so essentially some other tools. The other tools can be processing, other tools can be communication, the other tools can be getting community, the other tools can be recognizing what it is that we're being afraid of. And sometimes the other tools can be just standing still and planting our feet and saying, okay, I'm going to stick through this.
Mm-hmm.
There are some storms that we are not meant to run from. There are some storms that we are supposed to stand through. I don't know which storms. That's between you and your therapist. That's between you, whatever God or deity that you serve. But there are certain storms that we have to stick through, that we keep trying to run from, and it's actually supposed to be something that builds us and makes us stronger. Build up those other tools.
And also, what we're saying is, I think at the end of the day, is being mindful, because it's very easily to slip out and go on autopilot and fall into these maladaptive behaviors and patterns. And so, being mindful about what's going on around you and checking in with things and practicing that, staying in the moment.
Yeah.
So you can process and figure out what the heck is going on, will benefit you.
Yeah.
When you're doing mindless, mind-numbing activities, you got, and again, everything's okay in moderation. I love a good, let me turn my brain off, but in moderation.
Like, my therapist just yelled at me a couple of days ago about isolating. So, it's still a thing. I still think he was wrong, but it's a thing. So guys, that's all we have for today's episode. We hope that you guys enjoy. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at She Wolf Alchemy, on TikTok at She Wolf Alchemy Podcast. If TikTok would stop banning us, and Lord, they keep taking down videos, and it just be like, heal, and TikTok be like, no, why are you promoting that?
They don't want us to be great.
They don't want to see I want to see Black women healed. Anyways, follow us on TikTok. Leave us a review wherever you're watching or listening. We would appreciate that. Leave a review with words, y'all. That would be great. And we'll have a new episode for you guys in 2 weeks. Yeah. Bye.
Bye.